education come first in this. If you can educate them on why it's dangerous to remarket, why their rate went up, why these things are going on, educate them on all of those things. And I think you're going to be able to walk your team right through how to handle those rate increases. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the podcast here for the Agency BFF podcast brought to you by Agency Performance Partners. We are talking about how to coach your team or work your team through rate increases, because that's what we're hearing about right now. Everyone's talking about rate increases and how to handle those and what to do about those, especially when it comes to remarkets or reshops. So as you know, if you know anything about APP, you know that we are big believers in the proactive retention calls. And that's not exactly what we're going to talk about here, but that is part of the strategy that you've got to get your team's heads wrapped around, is being proactive. However, for the sake of this podcast, what I do want to talk about is working through that when the phone rings and you got that client on the other end of the line and they're not too happy with you. And they're coming at you with the whole you people routine. You know what I'm talking about. The you people raised my rates. You people are picking on me and I didn't have a wreck. I didn't go through the storm. I didn't have a wildfire. I didn't have a leak in my pipes. I didn't have this problem or that problem. Why am I taking the rate increase? So what I want us to talk about here, let's just, first of all, when that happens, let's do a couple of things. First of all, this may sound really simple, but I want you to do this. When that call comes in, I want you to coach your team through, or if you're listening to this on the team, I want you to just take a deep breath. I think that's going to be huge. If you can just stop, take a deep breath, and realize that, number one, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything. They're coming at you pretty hot, probably, or they may come at you with this or that, but it's not your fault. So first of all, let's take a deep breath. And throughout this blog, I've got some different tips and strategies in there. So I may not go in the right order on this podcast, but I do want to talk about this a little bit, because the first thing I need you to do is take a deep breath, recognize it's not your fault, and then just start by adding value to the conversation. First of all, what I want you to do is just show some empathy. Hey, I understand you're upset, or I hear you in this, and just let them talk. Sometimes they just need an ear to listen. And as my mama told me, you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, right? So that's what I want you to think about here. Just take a deep breath, and just listen. Show some empathy and listen. Don't come back with them and saying, really, you're complaining about a 4% increase? I got clients with 30%, or really, blah, 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 blah. Don't do that. Just take the deep breath and understand they're upset for a reason. They had an increase, and that's okay. Everybody's going to react differently. So once you've shown the empathy and you've listened to their problem and listened to their challenge with the rate, then what I want you to do is start looking for ways for education. And so what I want to start with is what I like to call reverse engineering this whole situation, right? So there's a lot to be said for that. And you've heard for reverse engineering in other instances and other situations. That was easy for me to say. Blah, blah, blah. So what we're going to talk about here in reverse engineering is, let's say that they call you and they say, hey, my rate went up 25%. Okay. So what we want to do from there is start asking some questions. And it starts with a simple and easy question of why. What we want to do at this point is figure out why they had a rate increase. And so let's ask a few questions. And you probably have a questionnaire. You probably have some sort of script to walk through. But in case you don't, here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit back and just start asking questions. Oh, okay, well, let's look at why this went up. Let's talk about this a little bit. Let's identify what had happened. So, let's walk through, maybe a discount fell off, or maybe they added a vehicle to the policy they forgot about. Maybe they had a ticket. Maybe they had an accident. Maybe they have a whatever. So once you start asking a few questions and walking through their file, then you start uncovering and you start getting them thinking in a cause and effect type of mindset. And sometimes that's what it might take to help them realize, oh, that makes sense. The easiest one being a claim situation. Let's say you remind them or you're reminded of a claim situation that happened. Maybe their business had a cyber claim. Maybe one of their drivers hit somebody. Maybe there was a property claim. Maybe there was a workers' comp claim. Maybe something happened to cause that to happen. Personal lines, maybe you had something come up and had a claim, maybe a windshield, or maybe you had like I said, something happened to cause you to have some sort of claim, and maybe it's at fault. So you got property damage, maybe you got this, maybe you got that. There's whatever that might be. Once you explain that to them, then oh yeah, that is true. I did have a claim. And then it's like, oh, I should expect them to. I got to use it. And then you remind them of if it's a claim scenario, of how well the claims process went. And you can slightly pivot if you wanted to. That's how'd that claims process go? Oh man, it was fantastic. Da, 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 da. Then you might go ahead and breeze right through it. And they're like, oh, I understand completely. No big deal. I'll pay it and move on. But that may not happen every time. So let's talk about, as you're walking through there and, you're reverse engineering of why it went up. All the while doing this, you want to educate them on what's going on. Maybe the first thing you start with, maybe you've got a certain carrier that's taking a large rate increase this year, or maybe they put you on a moratorium, or maybe they have had some issues. Maybe they're pulling out of the state. Maybe it's whatever. You could start by educating them on that to say, you know what, the carrier that you're with, carrier XYZ, they're going through some challenges right now. They're taking some rate increases right now. And so they understand it's not just you. Maybe you've got a situation to where they added a 16-year-old driver, and you can remind them and let them know, hey, as you probably know, when you add a young driver, it can cause rates to go up because of the inexperienced driving, because of this or because of that. Or maybe I've had this situation come before. Maybe there was a situation where they had 3 vehicles and they thought, you know what, I'm going to take one of them off. Or they had 2 vehicles, they take one of them off. Then you've got a multi-car discount that got taken off. Because of that, the rate went up. Maybe there was, this or that happened. Maybe they went out to Geico and because they saw the commercial and they saw the Geico ad, they went online, they moved their auto from you to Geico. And then they said, well, it didn't affect my home. Well, yes, there is a bundle discount. You see where I'm going here, right? So again, reverse engineer why the increase happened and look for those reasons. Why else could that have happened? There's many, many ways why an increase could happen. And so what you want to do is go through all of those and identify that. Maybe as you start uncovering, maybe when you wrote the policy, the roof was 5 years old. Now the roof is 10 years old or 12, or maybe it was 10 years old before. Now it's 15 years old. And that causes some, rate challenges because of the algorithms or the rating platforms or whatever it might be. The rating factors are like a spider web sometime, and you've got all these different things. It's no longer just insurance score. Which brings me to another point. Maybe their insurance score changed. Maybe they filed for bankruptcy that year. Maybe something happened. I could go down this list for a long time, but you understand where I'm coming from. Reverse engineering, try to figure out why the increase happened. So all the while, you've got to remain confident in that. If you come at it with apologies and, apologetic for what's going on, then by you saying, I'm sorry, that's making it like it's your fault. You didn't do this. You didn't cause the increase, so why are you apologizing? What you want to do is come at it with confidence, take a deep breath, and start educating, start understanding, start helping them to understand why the rate went up. Showing confidence all along the way and explaining. Another way you could start educating your customer, let's say that they bought a new vehicle and it's got all these bells and whistles and all of the backup cams and the sensors and the self-driving and all that stuff. That stuff costs money, right? So you start talking to them about that and say, you know what? What happened there is we start seeing the value of those vehicles go up. We start seeing the insurance needing to go up because now if you get in a car wreck, it's no longer just replacing a certain part. Now you got to replace a camera. You got to replace a sensor. You got to replace a computer chip. You got to replace all of these things. So the cost of vehicles is more to replace. You start talking about labor cost. You start talking about material cost. You start talking about all the things that are, and now, oh yeah, you're right. Labor is pretty expensive. I just had to do this or that. Or you start talking about like, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. Those backup cams do cost a lot of money, or this happens, or you start helping them and showing them and having that confidence to help them to realize it's not them, it's not you, it's not anything other than just cause and effect. Just reverse engineering, showing some confidence and helping them to see why the rate went up. And so again, it's going to take a lot of practice, it's going to take a lot of confidence, because immediately you want to go into reshop mode. And I understand that. I do. And I'm having empathy for you on that too, because I was the same way. I wanted to immediately say, well, let's go ahead and reshop. But I talk to clients all the time, or agencies and prospective agencies all the time, that say, oh yeah, we do have a retention strategy. We reshop everybody. Whoa, hold up. Wait a minute. Let's not go that route. Let's make that the last ditch effort. The last resort, so to speak, would be to go in a reshop mode. And let me tell you why, and let you explain this to your customers. So you're working with your team and they immediately want to go into reshop mode. Let's talk about the pitfalls of remarketing. Let's talk about the dangers of remarketing. And we've already touched on some of these throughout this podcast already, but let's jump into it a little bit, right? One of the big things, you could talk to them about is if you remarket them every single year, that affects, especially in commercial, but also personal lines. A new carrier looking is going to notice, oh man, John Doe is shopped every year. The likelihood of us having this account for more than 1 or 2 years is unlikely. So we're not going to give them favorable rating, right? Commercial lines, you see that all the time. If you start shopping this, then the carrier's going to look at it and be like, they've moved 5 carriers in 5 years. I don't want this account. So you're not going to get favorable rate conditions, correct? So there's that, right? The other thing that you could also bring up as you're talking about rate and you're talking about increases, you're talking about reshopping challenges and the dangers of remarketing. When you move from the current carrier to a new carrier, they're going to require a down payment, most likely. The carrier with now is not. There's going to be a roll right into it, where now they may have to come up with a down payment, and they might, have to come out of pocket a little bit more money. So the savings, yeah, there's going to be savings, but at the same time, out of pocket in the very beginning, it's going to cost them a little bit more. So you could talk to them about that. Then there's the dreaded inspection, right? If you move your home, there's a likelihood that you could end up having another inspection. And let's say the first inspection was great, no big deal. You got through with flying colors, da-da-da-da. Now the house is a little bit older. Things happen. There's wear and tear, which is normal. Their house is not bad, just normal wear and tear. Now you have another inspection, which, first of all, let's just stop right there for a minute. Some people don't like people snooping around their property and looking around. But second of all, that inspection could uncover some problems. Uh-oh. Then you start getting them thinking when you mention that, oh, no, you're right. I do need to replace that back step back there. I do need to place this. I do need to do this. I need to touch up the paint on that. I need to replace that. I need to look at this. Ooh, I may not want to do a reshop, or I may not want to do another inspection. People don't like that, and they'll get to thinking about that. That could be a good deterrent from getting the reshop. Just bringing up the idea of an inspection might give them the willies, and they might say, you know what, you're right. I think I'm going to stay right where I'm at. That seems to make sense. So I think that's smart, and I think it's a good way. So first you bring up payments, then you bring up the inspection. Well, then let's say, like you talked about earlier, when we start asking the questions of why and why they're taking an increase and what's going on, you do uncover some of those things that become challenges now. An older roof, an outdated electrical, or HVAC or plumbing that may not cause a kick out, but it just causes a little bit of an increase because the house is a little bit older, because this or that. Maybe you uncover a ticket, an accident, another driver, a youthful driver, something to that effect, right? So you're with me on this, right? There's dangers to remarketing. Danger, danger, danger. There's dangers to remarketing. And you want to make sure that you expose that you educate your customer on that, because education comes first in this. If you can educate them on why it's dangerous to remarket, why their rate went up, why these things are going on, educate them on all of those things. And I think you're going to be able to walk your team right through how to handle those rate increases. I hope this helped you. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And thank you so much. And we got a lot going on and a new course, and we're working on some cool things. Stay tuned. And if you're interested in learning more about our retention course or any of our courses, go to agencyperformancepartners.com. Thank you so much. Have a great day.